Hello guys, this is Lawrence and welcome back to my channel. I'm the host of the Triathlete podcast, Usapang Triathlon. When I started this podcast, my plan was to showcase yung mga Filipino athletes na nasa Philippines and yung mga athletes na for me, I think na hindi masyadong nabibigyan ng opportunity o highlight sa social media. And I never thought that there would be a time na magkakaroon ako ng guest ng isang professional triathlete. Time, I would like to present you the Filipino-American professional triathlete na si Clarice. And I'm so happy na pinaunlakan niya tayo sa podcast na to. I know that she's a busy person. Just namin yun, pinag-usapan namin yung background niya of having a Filipino background. Pinag-usapan din namin yung how did she started into triathlon and growing up as a daughter ng isang Filipina who grew up in Cebu. To talk about her nutrition strategies when it comes to racing. And I hope na panoorin nyo from the beginning to the end and marami kayong matutunan. And time, the Triathlete podcast would like to present you Clarice, a Filipino-American professional triathlete. Thank you very much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. This is Lawrence. I'm the host of the Triathlete podcast, Usapan Triathlon, Swim, Bike, and Run. My guest for today is the only Filipino-American professional athletes in the world, and we are so happy to have her in this podcast because she's a good example, and also she represent our community. I'm so glad that she gave us some time because we know that she's busy. And I would like to congratulate her as well at the same time for having a great race last weekend. So, my guest for today is Clarice. Clarice,
Yes.
welcome to my channel and
Thank you so
congratulations
much
to
for having
your weekend race.
Yeah, thank you. It was unexpected after coming off of Ironman Texas to have such a great race, especially at the half Ironman distance. So I'm very thankful that all the stars aligned.
Well, I'm happy that you were able to renew your professional license on that race. It means that another 3 years, right? As a
Another 2 years.
professional. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we are happy that for another 3 years, there will be a professional Filipina triathlete who's representing our community. So, Clarice, everyone wants to know who is Clarice aside of being a professional triathlete?
Yeah, so I am full time. So I do triathlon as a hobby. I just got very lucky and I'm very privileged to race professionally because I have the athletic ability to do so. But I work full time, so I still have a full time job, and then I
Wow.
race and train. Yeah, and I'm actually also a triathlon coach, but I'll get there. So my full-time job is I am a recreation therapist. For those who do not know what recreation therapy is, I do recreation and leisure programming for a substance abuse program for the United States Navy. So I work at a naval hospital here in Portsmouth, Virginia, and we take in active duty service members across all branches of the military. And what we do is I provide them leisure opportunities, whether that go out into the community or we work on functional life skills such as communication, team building, healthy competition through games, just simple games that we play normally as humans with our family, even doing things like puzzles, playing Scrabble, Heads Up on the phone is a popular game. So we always have life lessons that we teach you that. So I have about a caseload of about 40 patients that I see throughout the week. So I work actually Tuesday through Saturdays, and I get to take them out on the weekends into the community and go to establishments like bowling, movies, malls, and all of that. And they get to try out their sobriety in public before they discharge. It's an inpatient program. And then So in the mornings, I wake up really early and train, and then I come home and I train till the late night. And then also, I'm a triathlon coach. So I have a good amount of athletes ranging from beginner to experience to those that are going for Kona and have qualified for Kona. I absolutely love it. Majority of it is virtual because the company I'm with is called Speed Sherpa. They're based out of Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. And I have some local athletes, so I will meet up with them and do swims or run analysis, and sometimes just little chats at coffee shops to talk about how their training is going. So I definitely keep busy. It's not just triathlon, but majority of my life is triathlon. And even in my day job, I get to talk about how important it is to have recreation and leisure. So for me, that's triathlon. Triathlon is my hobby. I enjoy it. It's so fun and it keeps me healthy. And it's something that I look forward to doing it outside of work. I think about it all the time. So I promote that to my patients about the healthy aspect of having a good lifelong hobby like this that I've never, unfortunately, I've been privileged to never have a substance abuse addiction. I know that that's so tough for some people, and I see it
Mhm.
every single day. But for a lot of my patients, I really do try to get them into running. I just say, just lace up those sneakers, go for a run, and just get those endorphins, and see to get you just feel so much better, get that adrenaline pumping through your body. So it's a lot of activity in my life, but it keeps me busy, and I know that I'm really privileged to do what I love.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your, the inside things that you do outside triathlon, and so happy to hear that, uh, you're not just a full-time triathlete, but also having a full-time job. It's like I was really amazed when you told us that you're still a full-time employee, and not just an employee, but it has a very big responsibility because you're dealing with people, you're
Mhm.
helping people. You're not just doing some paperwork or managing some finances or something like that, but you're saving people as well. It's an amazing. Thank you for doing that. And
Thank you.
now, Clarice, can you please let us know how did you get a Filipino heritage for those who are, because most of my listeners are from Philippines and they want to believe you're the only professional triathlete who has a background of Filipino heritage.
Yeah, there's other Asian Americans out there. I know the first female, but she I believe was Korean. I know there's somebody right now that's from Guam.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's another Japanese athlete out there, but in terms of Filipino, I'm not sure who else is out there. And then when I was talking to Ironman in 2021, at the time, I was the only Asian American professional female on the long distance circuit. So
Oh.
majority of the other ones were doing short course like ITU
Mm-hmm.
or an Olympics, and I was doing half Ironman and Ironman. So
Oh, that's good. There used to be a Filipino American. I think she was based in California, and she
yes,
used to represent Philippines in Southeast Asian. But
yes,
I don't know right now where she is right now. Suddenly she
yeah,
disappeared.
I was talking about her to somebody else, and we were like, we don't really know her name. We're trying to find her, but yeah, exactly. I know
Her
who
name
you're
is
talking about.
Kim.
Yes, she was on. I remember seeing her on Instagram, and then all of a sudden she
Yeah,
stopped posting one day.
forgot that. Yeah, Kim Kilgrove.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So she represent Philippines for a few years, and I believe she also raced Cebu 70.3
Yeah, I remember seeing all that.
2018. But after that, after I think the last Southeast Asian game, she stopped. Or but yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
want to know more about how do you get the Filipino heritage?
Yeah, so my mom is the Filipino one. She's the she's my Filipino side. I am half. I'm split even down the middle. So I'm 50% Filipino, which is my mother's side, and then 50% French, which is my father. So my mom is actually from Cebu, so
Hmm.
the island of Cebu. So specifically, my grandparents live in Katmon, and then I know that my aunt and my parents actually built a little duplex out in a city called Cordoba, and that's actually I've
Cordoba.
been there. Yeah, I haven't been there in a while, but the last time I went was in 2003, so it's been 20 years. But I've been to the Philippines twice. Once when I was 3, and then I think I was 8 the second time. But my father wanted to visit the Philippines because my dad likes traveling and he had a guidebook, but
Mm.
specifically he found this church in Cebu, or excuse me, in Camon, which was beautiful. And it just so happened that my mom was a teacher at the time, so she was in there with the children she was teaching. And my dad asked her a question about something about the architecture. I'm not 100% sure, and then the rest was history. And then, of course, 29 years, 30 years later, technically, I'm here. So
Uh, that's amazing. I thought that your mom was grew up in US, and then your mom met your dad.
no, so I'm actually I would be considered technically like a first generation,
Yeah,
I believe
yeah.
is the word. Yeah. So my mom did all of her schooling in the Philippines and was a teacher there, and then my father is an engineer. So at the time he just had the ability to go travel. And then my mom came over to America about a year and a half, 2 years after she met my dad, and they got married. So my mom was brand new to this country, and I can't even imagine what that was like. But it was definitely a change of scenery. But yep, first generation.
Wow. Yeah. So, Clarice, tell us, how did you started into triathlons? Like, you told me that you have athletic ability. So when did you, at early age when you were young, what age did you realize, okay, I'm good in athletics? And then later on you transition into triathlon.
It's funny because I never would say that I was good at athletics. I played soccer and lacrosse when I was younger in school because my
Mhm.
mom wanted me to be active afterwards. And then in high school, I transferred high schools. So my last 2 years, my third and fourth year of high school, I joined the cross country team. So the running team at the high school here. And it was a small little Catholic high school. There weren't many of us. And I thought it was great, but now I look at my times and I think it's really funny. But that's how I started running. I joined this run community versus other sports teams because I wanted to get some friends, make some
Mhm.
friends as I transferred high schools. I didn't want to be alone, and I did develop a community through them. And then I graduated high school. I went off to college at Syracuse University in upstate New York, and then I didn't do anything. I did a little bit on the rowing team, and then I didn't make it, and then I actually gained a lot of weight.
Mhm.
So in college, just the good old freedom and the dining, not having my mom's good old rice anymore in the Ponset. I missed that, but I had a lot of other things at my disposal, and I gained like 30 pounds or something my freshman year. So it was January of 2012 when I got on the scale and I knew I needed to make a change. So what I did is I started running, and I would go to the gym and I'd make my way up to 1 mile, then 2 miles, then 3 miles. Then I started running 5 miles. I started running outdoors. And then in the spring, I had the goal of running a half marathon. So that was in August of 2012, and throughout that process from January to August, I lost 50 pounds in the process. I got a new love of running. I did the half marathon. I went in under 2 hours, which that was my goal, and I exceeded it. And then I was like, oh gosh, like what should I do now? I have this goal. I need another one. So then I found a triathlon club when I was at Syracuse, and I figure how hard can swimming and biking be? My
and,
parents
and do you know swimming? Do you know
I
swimming?
started yeah, so my parents grew up I grew up on a lake
Mhm.
community in New York, so we would go to the beach every single day in the summer. So
Mhm.
I was no competitive swimmer by any means, but I knew the freestyle. And then I had a hybrid bike that I rode around the neighborhood with my neighbors, so I thought, how hard could this be? It was very hard. Um, so I did a triathlon with the club and I loved it. I raced collegiately. So in the US, we have a collegiate conference. So I was able to do triathlon for 3 more years at college, and then I graduated. But I was never very serious in it. It was just something that I really enjoyed. It was more of a hobby, and it wasn't actually until I started training for my second Ironman in 2019. For the first time ever in my life, I picked up a coach,
Mhm.
and I all of a sudden we started working together, and I started running fast. I started biking hard. I started swimming a lot. And while working together in May of that year, in 2019, I qualified for the 70.3 World Championships, won my age group. And then I went to Boulder later on in 2019, and I qualified for Kona. So I went to Kona in 2019, but I was the fourth female overall. And my coach and I realized I missed my professional qualification by a few minutes. That was
On
never
that on Kona, you can even get your professional.
so
Uh,
so you can in Kona, but this was in Boulder.
mhm.
So I went to Boulder in 2019, Boulder, Colorado, and I just wanted to qualify for Kona, and I did. So I was very happy. But once we looked at the results afterwards, we
Oh,
realized,
okay.
yeah, he was like, you could have been. He's like, you were so close to becoming a professional athlete, and I go, what? What is that? What's Um, so then all of a sudden that became my goal. I wanted to become a professional athlete. I was so close. I was minutes away from doing 7 minutes, something like that. But in Kona, Kona is tough. So I did not get it in Kona. And then the next year we had the coronavirus with
Hmm.
2020. So I trained through all the uncertainty of the year, and luckily I was able to get a race in Florida, in Panama City Beach. I did Ironman Florida in November 2020, and thankfully I was the second female overall. I went into that wanting my professional card. I got my professional card, and then I turned pro the year after, and I've been racing like that ever since.
Wow.
Yeah,
What
so
a
no,
journey.
no, sorry to my mom and my dad. No good genetics. We are not athletic in my family at all.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
But it was just a lot of hard work and determination.
Wow. That's amazing. It's like, are you really a did you grow up as a competitive person?
No, not at all. I didn't really care for sports as a child. I did it because my mom really wanted me to do something. I do something after school. And also I wasn't the smallest child, but I
Yeah,
wasn't also
that's a
I
typical
was
mom Filipino.
yes, yes,
No
you know,
sports, study
a lot
first.
of people a lot of people will look down on this, but I was like, I wasn't a big child, but I was a little bit chubby, so having some sports kept me in shape. But I didn't enjoy it, not at all. I would rather be outside with my friends, and then I really like the computer. I love computer games and all of that. I love video gaming, but it's so funny because my mom never really understood athletics, so I
Yeah,
know it's not that big
that's
in
a
the Philippines.
typical Filipino or Filipino communities.
Yeah,
Like, you should
it's
be
education.
education first, academic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So even now, it's funny. My mom's getting better with it, but sometimes I talk to her about triathlon and she doesn't really understand. And when I called her
Even
after I
until
qualified,
now.
yes, when I qualified for my professional license in 2020, I called her after and I go, "Mom, I'm a professional athlete." And she goes, "Oh my God, don't you quit your job?" Like I don't un- she's like, I don't understand what that is. Why are you a professional in triathlon? And so even nowadays we still there's still a little mix up. She doesn't understand why I need to ride my bike for a long amount of time or run a lot, but I know it's a lot of that. She didn't grow up with this, so it's very new coming here, and even being in America for 30 years at this point, I never was into this until I was in college and we were separated at that point. So she definitely handles it with a grain of salt, so I'm thankful for that. But it's funny sometimes with that. My parents, my dad's better, but my mom just doesn't understand as much.
Yeah, every Filipino mom is like that, and especially parents who migrated in US or in Canada. their the mentality is that finish studies first before
Hmm.
doing any sports, and it's funny. It's like, because I can really relate to your mom. Yeah. And just curious now, because you don't have this you didn't grow up into sports, and definitely you never had this competitive mentality when you were young. But suddenly, when you started racing lately, okay, where did you get that motivation that you just wanted to, you, you wanted to be a professional triathlete? You can just simply finish triathlon or finish the race, but Where do you get the motivation? Because usually, for me, people who I talk to, the reason why they are so motivated and so focused because they were trained when they were child that they are already into sports.
Yeah, I actually did my first Ironman in 2017 in Kentucky in Louisville, and I while I was in college, I watched the videos of Ironman. I watched the World Championship recaps while I was downstairs in my college basement riding my bike trainer. And I always wanted to do a half Ironman and then do an Ironman, but I knew I wasn't at a point where I would be competitive. It would just be for completion. So I was definitely above average at the time. Like I could get on the age group podiums, but they weren't. I was in the 18 to 24 age group, which isn't very competitive.
Hmm.
So, what the races I was doing now, it's much more different. 11 years down the road. But I I did my first Ironman and I enjoyed it. I took a year off, and then I was just talking to a teammate of mine at the time who was a triathlon coach, and he said let's do some coaching, let's give it a try. And I think it was just that having the external motivate. I knew I had it internally. I'm a extremely driven and motivated person by default, but having
Hmm.
that external motivation, knowing that there was somebody that was giving me workouts, I didn't want to let him down, and I also wanted to make him proud. I wanted him to see what I can do, and I wanted to do better than that. So that's another thing. That's why I love coaching. That's why I became a coach. I want to do the same thing to my athletes that my coaches have done for me throughout my athletic career. And then when I did so well at those races in 2019, at the beginning of 2019, I thought to myself, like, all it took was a little bit of that motivation and that push to kind of develop that fire inside of me. And then I realized that I had a very good talent. I have this gift, and I should see what I can do with it. So that's why I set those goals. So I never went into anything without some sort of goal. Like my first Ironman was completing it. I wanted to do it in under 12 hours, and I did that. But then it became my second Ironman. I was like, I'm fast. I can go to Kona. And then it just like every single I'm that person that I need a race to be motivated. If I don't have something on my schedule, it's hard to. So even now I have a full race season for the fall, but it's just knowing that I have all of this potential, and that if I don't tap into it, if I don't exercise, if I don't work out and go and hit those key sessions, that I'm not going to show up on the start line being the person that I think I can be. So it's just knowing that I could show up at the race, like giving everything that I have, that's what drives me.
Wow, amazing. Just a question now is that when you started triathlon, what's your struggle? Like, which one, which sports do you like? Do you improve easier? And what's the weakness among the swim, bike, and run?
I started off as a runner. I went into triathlon as a runner, so that's my strength. It's at the end, so I know that even if I have a bad bike and a bad swim, that I can get that run and I can make up places. That's what happened in Florida. I bumped up like 15, 20 slots or something just on the run that I had. But my struggle is the swim. So I grew up on a lake, and I was lucky to be able to go into the water, but I never had swim lessons. And I think when you learn to swim as an adult, you
Hmm.
just get that form that children swimmers do, the competitive swimmers. My best friend here is she started swimming at the age of four,
Four.
and she helps me out in the pool. She'll give me some form tips. We'll go and she'll coach me. She can swim 2,000 yards once a week, and when she did her Ironman, she did it in 58 minutes without a wetsuit. So I it's when it's just I can get that endurance. I can swim forever. I do like long distance swim sets, but when it comes to that, maintaining the form as your body fatigues and the
Mm-hmm.
proper catch in the pool, it's very hard, and you work hours to take seconds off your time. So to me, that's frustrating. But I've made a lot of progress with my current coach. We've been working very hard on my bike this year, and it didn't reflect as much as I would have liked in Texas, but it reflected on my race this last weekend, and I feel stronger on the bike. So that's if it was an order of things, I love the run, I like the bike, and I just deal with the swim so I can get to everything else. It's not my favorite.
Oh, just a question now is that when you started swimming and you really wanted to focus on improving your time for swimming, what are the things that you did for you to overcome those? Like, what was your weaknesses when you started swimming?
So my biggest one was not having proper form. So I just swam as a child. I learned freestyle that way, and then I did it in college. But I never had anyone watching me swim.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I even do right now for my athletes, and I strongly encourage anybody to do, is have a swim coach or a triathlon coach look at your swim, because just by I had my friend watch me from the end of the pool, and she can tell that my head was underwater. I was taking my head out a little bit too much to breathe. My left side is significantly weaker than my right, and I wasn't doing my flip turns properly. But if I didn't have her look at that, I would have never have known to make those choices or those changes. So that really helped. And then also too, I know we don't like them as triathletes. We want to go fast and we want to get out of the pool as fast as possible. But doing drills
Hmm.
really, really helped me. So my friend helped me learn how to kick properly because I was kicking from my knees instead of the
Yeah,
hips.
that's one of the
Yeah,
weakness. But until now, I cannot understand why you say, okay, you're kicking on your. I said, I'm doing that, but the way
yeah.
they look at me is that no, Lawrence, you're not doing it properly. It's like,
Yeah, so my friend swam behind me, and what she did is she put her hand right at the surface of the water, so I couldn't kick higher than the surface of the water. So that really helped. It kept I wasn't doing very long kicks. I was
mm,
doing short, fast ones. So what I tell my athletes is like ballerina feet. So and then one thing that I noticed too is I really embraced my core. I sucked it in. And I could feel when I was kicking that my hips and my core were working, and it's just because I was paying more attention to smaller kicks. So I believe that became a little bit more efficient, but I still think it's a work in progress.
well, thank you. And now, Clarice, I just have one question to you, uh, or actually two. The first one is that I'm so curious. How do you guys recover so fast? It's like for you as a professional triathlete, there would be a time that you just finished an Ironman few days back, and then last weekend you did a race. Yesterday I just did a Toronto Marathon, and I believe that it would be difficult for me to run for another few days.
Yeah,
That was just a marathon. How much more if you're doing a full Ironman?
it was. I will say that at Texas I didn't run to my fullest potential. I was still very sore the next week.
Mm,
I think the biggest thing for me was just fatigue. It
mm,
wasn't, my body wanted to move and I was still moving, but I knew that when I signed up for this race 2 weeks after an Ironman that I maybe would not have had the best
weeks
day ever, because
after an
I'd
Ironman.
yeah,
Wow.
I'd still I'd still be tired, but it actually worked in the reverse. I know not everybody is like this. So my coach gave me about 4 days off after the race of nothing. And that was very, very nice. Just walking my dog, going to the park. And then it was very light swimming, light biking, and then all of a sudden I had maybe 3 or 4 days of intensity, speed work, hard sweet spot bike work, a hard swim, and my body was I actually did very well with those. I handled those days. That was about 1 week post Ironman that I was starting to run fast and bike faster or bike harder. And then I began the taper into this race. I did very short swims, short runs, and I felt horrible. My body felt so heavy. I didn't know how I was going to race that weekend, but we really lightened the load. So the day before the race, I only ran 15 minutes. If this was a half Ironman that I didn't do before an Ironman, or didn't do after an Ironman, I would have maybe have biked 45 minutes. I would have run 4 miles, and I would have swam. So I went into this race very, very fresh
Mhm.
because we were still recovering from Texas.
Yeah.
So I think that actually worked in my advantage, because I personally myself, I would have taken these weeks so hard, even though there's supposed to be a taper. So I slept a lot. I actually moved a lot of my sessions so that I could sleep. I got a minimum of 8 hours of sleep. And then I also prioritize recovery with eating a lot of protein and eating a lot of carbohydrates too, really trying to fuel the body after the effort and then go into another effort. So it's been a lot. I'm enjoying the next 2 weeks semi unstructured, so that'll be nice.
That's good to know. And Clarice, want to know because you have a typical Filipina physique, and
Yep.
we want to know what's your carbohydrate intake during the race.
Yeah, I actually when I started triathlon, I wasn't eating or drinking that much because I I came into triathlon. I started running and I lost weight. So for me, it was it's kind of hard getting out of that mindset of wanting to lose weight during sport. And then I decided to switch my mindset, and instead of training and eating for weight loss, I'm actually training and eating for performance.
Hmm.
So I have
That's
this
a good
while
point.
yeah, and I tell my athletes too, if you want to lose weight during an Ironman, that shouldn't be your focus, but it can happen. You just need to pay attention to your diet. So don't get me wrong, I love my sweets and all of that. I always have a sweet before a workout, but I definitely try and take in some whole foods, veggies, and all of that. Protein is really protein I really try and keep up on. But for my carbohydrates, I for about 2 days leading into a race, I would be eating almost 600 grams of carbohydrates that day. And
Hmm.
it's tough. You feel very bloated, but what it
Yeah, and
is,
it's hard. It's hard to do that.
yeah, you're getting all that glycogen into your muscles. So you're priming your muscles for a very big effort. So that's what I had to tell myself, like, yes, you're eating so much. And previously, that may have been very hard for me because I would have been very focused on gaining weight. But I race the best when I have very good meals beforehand. So I actually, it's very Asian of me. It's very Filipino standard, but I actually have to have fried rice before a
Fried
race.
rice. Before
So,
race, fried rice.
and not the morning of, the day before.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So the morning of, I just have a plain bagel, but the day before for lunch, I normally I like a Thai or I like a Thai fried rice, a combination
Hmm.
fried rice from a Thai restaurant. So during the race though, I usually have a gel before the swim just to get a little bit of energy because it's been a few hours since I had breakfast, and then I'm not too sure if they have it yet in the Philippines, but in the America, and I know it's been very popular in the Ironman circuit. I've been using the Mortine,
Yeah, and we have that.
Morton.
They have that as well right now in Philippines.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. I actually only use the drink mix.
Hmm.
So um I use the 320. So that one is 79 grams of carbs and 320 calories. And then I supplement that with sodium on the side, like sodium and electrolyte chews on the side. And then on the run, I take a gel. I usually use. I've been using SIS. I use the recent brand that's AAPI owns called Char Gel, and it's any those are anywhere between 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrate, to try and take those in every 20 to 30 minutes. And if I keep eating every 30 minutes, that really helps. So that and all, it's I know on that bike per hour, it's anywhere between like 80 to 100 grams of carbs. But I feel that excuse me, when I drink that much, because I don't eat on the bike, I take in all of my nutrition through
Fluid.
fluids. I feel so much better. I feel so ready and primed for that run, and I know that I have to keep fueling my body throughout the race to get to the run, which is my strength.
Oh, good to know. Good to know because so far, I think the last person that I spoke to, her her carbohydrates per hour is somewhere around 80 grams. So you even go to 100 grams per hour.
Not too often, but that's if I have a little snack on the bike. So
Hmm.
I I sometimes might have gummy bears or chewy candy, just
Okay.
to break up the flavor fatigue of the Mortine because
Hmm.
it's thick. It's a syrupy gel. And then I sometimes have Rice Krispies. So it's a little bit more motivation on the
Hmm.
side than
Hmm.
anything. But it's and if I don't have it, like I didn't have it during my race last weekend because it was so short, but for me it breaks it up. It's something to look forward to. So if I do have those sort of supplementary foods on the side, that'll bring me up to 100. But being around that 80 is like the prime perfect number. And I know a lot of other athletes have really been experimenting and being around that area lately and
Hmm.
realizing that it's okay to have more carbohydrates. It fuels you for your performance.
Yeah. And just a follow-up question with that. How do you able to train your guts to, or at the beginning you were good in taking 80 grams above per hour, or
Yeah, I
there's a struggle before that?
No, so I will say that I'm very privileged in terms of being able to try race nutrition. The
Mhm.
only thing that I don't do like leading into a race is I cut out dairy. I don't and even my mom, I think it's my mom has a lactose intolerance. So that's the only thing that I can't handle leading into a race or a hard training session. But one day I got a sample pack of the Morton gel or the Morton gels and then the drinks and I decided to try it because I knew that that's like very popular
Mhm.
nowadays, and I ran out of the Gatorade Endurance that I was using at the time, and I have no issues. I know some people have issues taking in gel, so I try and do the gels that are specifically the ones that you don't need to take a water with. So I know the goos or the honey stingers, you need to sip a little bit of water with those when they go
Mhm.
down. But I know
Mhm.
SIS and the char gel that I just tried, you don't. So that
Okay.
helps because
Good to know.
if I eat yeah, if I eat every 20 minutes, sometimes I might not be near an aid station. So
Mhm.
I have that strict schedule, so I can take that gel and know, okay, in a few minutes I'll get to an aid station and drink a water there, and it won't cause me GI distress. And then I know, because I try and take in more fluid, especially when it's hot. Racing in Virginia or training in Virginia, it gets very warm during the summer. I drink a lot more fluids, but taking sodium, the little sodium tablets and the sodium
Mhm.
pills, it helps absorb that water, so it's not sloshing in my stomach.
Oh, nice. Well,
Hmm.
thank you. That's a very informative secrets of yours, and
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to share it with anyone.
yeah. And lastly, what's your favorite Filipino food when growing up?
Oh, oh, what would if I was to go? So, being in Virginia Beach, we actually have a lot of Filipino restaurants here.
Mhm.
So, I'm very, very lucky. My mom loves coming down here to visit. I will say, everybody likes saying the pancits and the
Mhm.
lumpia. I love that. But my favorite is the Filipino spaghetti or like the
Oh,
Jollibee
really?
spaghetti.
Yeah.
So my mom, when I was younger, we used to go to a Filipino mass in a different
Mhm.
city. And
Mhm.
this one woman would always make this spaghetti. And I know it's sweet. It has the hot dogs, the cheddar cheese, and it is so delicious. And when we have a Jollibee here, and when my parents come down, I get the Jolly spaghetti. It's I think that's my favorite
Mhm.
out of everything. So very untraditional, but it's so good.
Great, great. Yeah, it's funny because in my church, uh, there's sometimes we have this munch and mingle, and I think there are very few Filipino in that church, and every time we have this munch and mingle, my wife always bring pancit and said she always think, okay, pancit na naman. It's like pancit again. So I told
Yeah.
her, don't worry about that because we're the only people who's bringing pancit to that church community and they all love it, and for them it's totally different. It's like it's amazing, yeah, for bringing those food in, and for us pancit is normal, and I think for you growing uh you always have this pancit, you always have this, and it's like, oh, it's
Yes.
normal. But when you bring it outside, bring it to your friends, like we always get a compliment. Oh, you did amazing. You
That's why I like the untraditional foods. So my coworker will say, "Oh, doesn't your mom make pancit and lumpia all the time? Isn't that your favorite?" And I go, "No, because
no.
I have time." So that's why I love the spaghetti or I love lechon. I love me a crispy little bit of lechon. But my mom never made it because it's hard to fry the pork
Mhm.
and or get the pig. It was a special occasion. So
Do you know
I
that on your place, your mom's place has the best lechon in the world?
I will
Yeah, when you say
uh,
Cebu lechon Cebu, it's
uh-huh.
like everyone knows the standard and the taste
Faster.
quality of like
I
even
do
here in
remember.
Canada, if you're going to buy something and they said, okay, this guy came from Cebu and they make a traditional lechon as same as Cebu lechon. It's like that's the best. So if you ever trying to visit Philippines and if you're going to race Cebu, definitely that's the best thing that you can do. Try the
I mean,
Cebu lechon.
I know that recently there was a 70.3 in Davao City, and they had a
Yeah.
professional professional race.
Yeah.
So it's always been in my mind. My mom went to the Philippines a few years ago in the summer, and there was a race, and she bought me a little shirt that says Clarice Triathlon Cebu. It's funny, I still have it upstairs, but I would love to go back and race in the Philippines. Just seeing the photos, I know it's beautiful because I've been there myself, but
Mm.
I think that would be so fun to go back and represent there. And then,
Yeah.
as you said, the lechon. I also, yeah, the longanisa. I love
Longganese.
longanisa.
Yeah. One time we had this have you tried boodle fight?
I don't think so. Mm-mm.
But you heard about the boodle fight that the Filipino tradition of how the military eats, that they're just going to put all their food in
Oh,
banana leaf.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one time we had that in the church and they wanted to try that, and I we brought this longanisa. So said we always say longanisa, longanisa. And when I tried to explain to them, oh, this is a Filipino sausage. And when they tried that, it's like their face suddenly changed. What? It's totally different from the other
Uh-huh.
sausage that we we
Uh-huh.
we have here, right?
I had when I was in the Philippines, pretty much the main meal that I had was rice and longanisa. So that's another one that I really like. I might it's or so good in like garlic fried rice. You mix it
Mhm.
up and put a little bit of an egg. Oh, what a good meal. That's why I like the fried rice as my pre-race meal. It's like home.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
So,
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Clarice, for the time. And
oh,
also,
thank
if
you.
ever you wanted to race in Philippines, I can easily connect you to the right persons. It's like
Oh, awesome.
I know the organizer of, not really know, but she's my Facebook friends, organizer of Ironman Philippines. And the
Okay.
moment they find out about you, it's like they would be very, very happy to have you as one of the professional female athletes in the race. We always have um, the Palawan 70.3.
Yes,
It's
yes, I remember
that's
that one.
one of the best venue right now. The Cebu is one of the hardest race in Philippines right now because it's so hot.
Yeah, I
Like
could. My mom.
even
I think
even
it's
the
not.
Filipino athletes there says that it's so hot. So imagine
Yeah,
if you are outside in you're not in Philippines and you race in Davao. It's like
yeah, I remember. Yeah, it's usually in the summer, what would be equivalent to our summer. I think my
mhm,
mom was in the Philippines in July or August, and I was so confused when there was a 70.3 race. I'm like, Mom, it's so hot. And she's like, Yeah, but they were triathletes.
yeah, yeah. So and
So,
also in Cebu itself, there we have this Cebu 70.3, and they said that that's the crown jewel of Southeast Asian. That's one of
ooh,
the toughest race, 70.3 race in in the Asian. And when it comes to full Ironman, we have the full Ironman Philippines, which is in Subic.
yes, Subic Bay.
And yeah, and so far they said that is comparable with Langkawi, Malaysia. And
Oh
what's
yeah, I
that's
heard.
one, yeah, that's one of the toughest uh, race because it's hot. It's like it's always, Philippines, it's hot.
Oh yeah, of
When it
course.
comes to running, a lot of athletes suffers in running, and maybe it's good for you because you're you're really a good runner. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. We'll see. What it's my goal, so I'll make it there one day. I have another 3 more years, so.
Yeah, yeah, and we are really looking for that. And I know people who's going to watch this video, they will know about you, and hopefully they are looking forward to meet you in Philippines as one of our top competitor in the pro field.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Thank you, Clarice, and more power to you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
we wish you that you will always have a great success in triathlon as a professional triathlete, because uh, you're representing us and you give
Mhm.
us hope, because our
Thank you.
community is just a small community. We are still new, but yeah, thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you someday if ever you have a
You
race
will.
here
You
in
will.
Canada.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.